from an airline. So we have our full-service economy class, offering every Pan Am passenger complete service no matter how inexpensive their ticket.
What's up, YouTube, and welcome to Vic's Mind. Today we are going to be talking about the rise and fall of Pan Am. And without further ado, let's get started with the video. The first regular international trip from the United States was operated by Pan America, which was started in March 1927 by two U.S. Air Force majors, Henry Arnold and Carl Spaatz. As an air mail service between Key West, Florida and Havana, Cuba, aviation pioneer Juan Trippe acquired the company in 1928 and turned it into a commercial airline that silently operated flights from Florida to Havana. By the beginning of 1930, Pan Am was operating flights over the majority of South America using a fleet of flying boats they dubbed as Clippers. This would continue until Pan America went bankrupt, since the pilots of its seaplanes wore Navy captain uniforms. Pan Am broke many records, like the first airline to fly around the globe and the first to fly across the Pacific Ocean. In the early 1930s, port cities in Mexico, Central America, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Puerto Rico made up the majority of the initial destinations of Pan American mail service. The business was utilizing its water-landy Sikorsky S-38 and S-40 Clipper flying boats. In the middle of the 1930s, Pan Am's supremacy on routes to Cuba and Central America was ensured by such technological advances. Later, in World War II, the military used Clippers. The first trans-Pacific flight from Hawaii, Midway Island, Wake Island, and Guam to Milana in the Philippines were launched by Pan American in 1935. Later, the businesses expanded its service to Hong Kong and then Macau. Pan Am grew into a massive commercial aircraft company between the late 1930s and the late 1940s, serving numerous nations in North and South America, the Caribbean islands, Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. Its most illustrious years were the 1930s and the 1960s, when it was most well-known air carrier. When traveling internationally by flight, Pan Am was unquestionably your best option. It stood for all the positive aspects of the trip: cocktails, delectables, gourmet dinners, sitting next to Hollywood celebs, and you name it. After Pan American unveiled its Boeing 707 for flights from New York to Paris in 1958, the era of jet travel officially began. With Pan Am, the trip was smooth, comfortable, and by half the length. To stay competitive, of other airlines had no choice but to start offering jet flights. Boeing, a well-known manufacturer of airplanes, produced the first American jet engine commercial aircraft in that same year, and Pan Am struck gold. Pan American operated the first 707 flight, which took 8 hours to travel from New York to Paris. Pan Am placed a remarkable 1,000 aircraft orders in all. These aircrafts could travel large distances non-stop, enabling Pan American to reach well-known locations like London, Rome, and Paris. People in the U.S. began to take these long flights, these contemporary airplanes, all of a sudden. Pan American presented it at the time as a pipe fantasy for the middle class. Wide, comfy seats, a multilingual cabin crew, great gourmet meals like steak and even caviar, and a current fleet. After that, the airline introduced economy class, allowing everyone to travel instead of just the rich and famous. Both Pan American's renown and profits skyrocketed. They traveled 20 billion miles and carried 11 million passengers alone in 1970. The most seasoned airline in the world, according to Pan American World Airways. They outran other airlines, flying to every continent except Antarctica. Pan American committed $500 million and served as the world's first launch customer for the Boeing 747, the first two-story passenger aircraft. Believing that the air travel would only grow in popularity, this was a blunder that led to the company's demise. The price of oil skyrocketed by 400% in just a couple weeks following their purchase, forcing the US and other nations to scramble. Due to their huge fleet and long-haul flights at the time, Pan Am was more severely affected than other airlines by this, indicating that they need more gasoline than others to maintain smooth functioning. Tickets became more expensive as a result, which decreased demand for travel and resulted in half-empty Pan Am flights. Pan Am lost over $360 million between 1970 and 1976, and it owed more than $1 billion. They served as the Boeing 747's first client. That was a fantastic airplane for them to purchase at the time. Although that was the appropriate decision, the oil crisis drastically altered Pan Am's situation. The plane was suddenly the incorrect choice. It wasn't really effective because travel demand was down. It was the flying routes that actually weren't selling it very well. It was really challenging moment, but who could have known when they decided to acquire the planes? With that, the economy was also in bad shape, and American demand for overseas travel significantly decreased while Pan Am's operational expenses increased, leaving the airline dangerously over capacity with massive, partially occupied planes flying. As a result, Pan Am suffered losses of around $364 million between 1969 and 1976 and was believed to be $1 billion in debt. Because of their severe situation, Pan Am began recommending mergers with other airlines like United and American. The Civil Aeronautic Board, however, consistently rejected Pan Am's permission to operate domestically after competing airlines persuaded the U.S. Congress that Pan Am threatened to dominate the U.S. aviation. But once the Aircraft Deregulation Act was enacted into U.S. federal law in 1978, the government lost its ability to regulate airline routes. Now that Pan Am could purchase a local carrier, it hurriedly paid $437 million for National Airlines. National Airlines was a domestic airline that Pan Am committed to buy. This was a bad tactic because national airline airports and aircrafts were very different, reacquiring retraining for Pan Am workers. Pan Am lost about $19 million because of it. Pan American, who was now in critical condition, paid $400 million US for a historic and massive Manhattan head office. Pan Am kept self-liquidating to make up for its losses. In addition to exchanging its hotel chains, it sold United Airlines the whole Pacific section. Meanwhile, Pan Am maintained its status as a premier U.S. airline in the world. But this claim to fame would inspire a terrible terrorist strike over Lockerbie, Scotland. All 259 individuals on board the airliner, passenger, and crew were tragically murdered, as were 11 Lockerbie residents. Pan Am was blamed for being careless and guilty of negligence for not having enough protection. The Lockerbie bombing cost Pan Am more than $350 million US to recover from it and ultimately proved to be airline's death knell. Pan Am declared bankruptcy in December of 1991. The bulk of Pan Am was acquired by Delta Airlines, the biggest airline in the world, for about $1.3 billion following a bid, acquiring its 45 aircrafts, European routes, Frankfurt, Germany, Mini Hub, and JFK New York Airport's iconic Worldport facility. Delta halted buying out Pan Am after realizing that the airline was losing more than $3 million every day. On December 4, 1991, a phone call was placed to Pan Am's corporate headquarters with the instructions to shut it down. Despite efforts to revive it, the airline was permanently shut down and around 7,500 employees lost their jobs. Pan Am has significant impact on the industry as a whole in many different ways. From its daring flight plans to its groundbreaking aircraft, Pan Am's legacy will forever live on. And there you have a brief history of Pan Am and what led to its greatest highs and its lowest lows. Let me know if you guys want more videos like this in the future. Let me know what you guys think of this one. And again, welcome to Vic's Mind. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you.